Hello folks, would like to welcome you to the final installment of the Deranged Rover series, which, as someone suggested some months back, will be called All Over Range Rover. So we have quite a bit to update you on today, but before we can do any of that, we need to pilot this super tanker out into my driveway so we can plug the thing in. So that is what we are doing now, and my housing estate unfortunately was not really designed for these kind of vehicles. I suppose it doesn't help when you have 7 cars trying to fit into a 2-car driveway also. Now, reverse mode. I do like the way you can look out from a height. Come on, Deranged Rover, you can do it. I do like the brakes, they work perfectly. So folks, let's get to it and start going through what we have done here since you last saw us. Alrighty folks, so firstly my apologies if this is a bit of a wind noise special here. If it gets too bad, I'll just do a talk over of it. So right now we're plugged in to charge here on our AC charging point. Of course, using a Tesla EV SE just for fun. Now, as you can see here, unfortunately, we do have to remove the front grille to access our charging ports. And I had intended designing a kind of a hinging system here for this, but I guess like a lot of things on this project, unfortunately, just time hasn't been my friend on it, so I'm going to have to leave that for the owner. So I guess let's have a look in here first of all, and I'll give you a quick overview of the various components in here. So here we have our high voltage junction box. So in here we have our contactors, fuses, ISA can shunt and all that sort of thing. Over here to the right of it then, we have our Lexus IS300H inverter, which drives both the front and the rear motors in the vehicle. It's got a kind of a modified cover on it here to allow a standard Hubner Rev 3 board and a little adapter that I designed to fit in there. That's all nicely sealed up against elements and fingers. A bit crude, but it most certainly does the trick for us here. And this is a one-off build, so there's no real point doing a fancy board for this. Coming along this way then and going in here, a little bit more wiring tidy up to do in here, is our main VCU. So this is the one that controls the vehicle when we want to charge it, start it, drive it, all that kind of thing. We do have cables here then that we'll be plugging into our CHAdeMO VCU, and we have the software designed for that. So coming in then around the back of our high voltage junction box, we have our Lear Coda charger. This is our nominally 3 kilowatt charger, I think, but because the fact that our battery voltage is only 240 volts, that runs at about 2.8 kilowatts. This was a real tour de force to get this to work, because it turned out that the Coda version of this uses a completely different control mechanism and commands and all that, but we did get there in the end thanks to some help on the Open Inverter forum, and the necessary CAN is being sent from the VCU over to our charger, and that's presently charging. Our cooling pump is running, so let's have a look in here. This is our cooling pump. This is a Tesla Model S cooling pump. So that circulates coolant filled from the reservoir here, basically all the way through the two motors, through the charger, through the inverter, through the radiator here that you can just about see down the front of the vehicle, and then back up here, and keeps that circulation going. In here then, this is our cabin heater, which has its own dedicated loop. So we have our coolant, our pump to run that. We have our filler here for filling and bleeding, and those hoses there tie into the original heater matrix. Now the cable for that is brought over here then, and it's just at the minute, it's just literally sitting here. There's 3 wires, 12 volts ground, and the green is single wire CAN. So unfortunately I haven't had the time to make a controller for that, but I have quite a few of those heaters going around and going into some of my own builds, so I will have a controller for this, and I will be able to send that over to the vehicle's owner, and he can just wire that up. It's only a few simple connections. But apart from that, pretty much everything for the cabin heater is done there, and it's even bled out, pump runs, and this thing sends out, you know, single wire CAN and everything else. So don't think there'll be any major problems for that. Down here then, I don't know if it's gonna even focus or even try. Yeah, there it is our trusty Opel Zafira power steering pump, which runs our power steering system, and it works very well indeed. So over here then, beside the cooling reservoir, of our 12 volt battery shut off with the key, and the key is cable tied on there so as not to lose it. Round the back of the vehicle then, in the rear cargo space, we've our high voltage shut off box here. So in this box is one of the original shut off switches that was in that valence battery pack, and there's another traction pack fuse in here as well, just to give protection to the cables that are running underneath the vehicle from which is the rear battery compartment here. I don't know if I can do this. So we've our rear battery compartment here, and there's 10 batteries here, and they're connected in series with the front pack, and a total of 20 batteries for about 240-250 volts high voltage system. I've had to make a bit of a handle to go on this, just out a bit of nylon, just because I didn't these things didn't come with a proper switch actuator. So that's about it in the back of the vehicle. As I say, this has got our high voltage shut off and our second pack fuse, which is in series with the two packs, so between the rear and the front pack. So let's see what's next. So let's have a look inside. We've got a computer here where hopefully, if we don't get too much sunlight on it, I'm going to be able to show you the VCU front end. So what we have here at the minute is the vehicle is in charging mode. And we'll see a couple of things here. So we'll see our pack voltage. So this is the total pack voltage, 246 volts. The DC current going in is just under 11 amps, so that's our charger. That makes for, again, just under 2.7 kilowatts. Now there's one here that says half pack voltage, and it's at 123 volts. So what do we see about that is that should be, this is measuring the voltage of the rear 10 batteries that we saw in the back. This is amp hours, so the negative number on that going down means that we're putting energy back in, because I was just out for a drive this morning, so we're charging the vehicle back up. Kilowatt hours at the minute isn't working for some reason, so don't know what's going on there yet. HV box temperature is pretty much what it means, is the temperature as measured by the ISA shunt inside the high voltage junction box. And delta volts here is the last one and perhaps the most important. So as you see at a minute, this is kind of quite low and it's kind of moving around a bit. So what the VCU is doing is it's calculating the difference between the two battery pack halves. So the difference between the rear 10 and the front 10 batteries is being monitored here by the VCU. And when that voltage exceeds, well, if that voltage exceeds a certain point, charging will be terminated. Likewise, if and when we reach a predetermined voltage for our main complete battery pack, charging will be terminated also. So this is working in kind of a very similar manner to the old Lee Hart bat bridge design from back in the day. Obviously when we're driving, this VCU is alive as well and monitoring the same parameters. It's based on Wi-Fi, so at the minute we're just connected over Wi-Fi. Could use a laptop, phone, tablet, anything that has a Wi-Fi connectivity and can open a web browser at the address that you see there. And like all of these things with me, I have a default password. People email me almost on a daily basis, no matter how hard I try. All of my Wi-Fi passwords are the same. It is inverter 123, small letters, nothing else. So that's our VCU. And as I say, we are on charge at the minute, so I've gone through what's under the bonnet for you. So let's have a look inside the cockpit here. So not sure if I showed this in the last video, pretty sure I did, but there's been a few changes I think since then. So this is our basic control panel for controlling the car. Pretty self-explanatory. The center off position switch here decides whether we're going in drive, which is basically forward, neutral, where we don't respond to the throttle pedal, and reverse is where we're going in reverse. The rear wheel drive, four wheel drive switch decides whether our inverter just drives the rear motor when it's in the rear wheel drive position, or drives both motors when it's in the 4x4. Now there's quite a bit of tuning that'll still need to be done on the inverter and the motor, or on the inverter parameters I should say, to suit the motor. This switch here I don't think we had set up the last time. This is the charging mode switch. So the minute it's in charge on, it's the charge off. So we basically flick that switch to charge on when we wish to charge either with the normal AC slow charger that you've seen working here, or whether or when we get our CHAdeMO VCU sorted out. So I think the last thing that we want to do is show you the CHAdeMO VCU system. So our CHAdeMO VCU is very similar to a lot of my designs. In fact, this is a, some of you may notice, this is in fact a Nissan Leaf board that I use for controlling the Nissan Leaf inverter, with just a few components removed. And we're basically repurposing this guy as our CHAdeMO controller. And in the case of this vehicle here, once I have this, once I have the software tested for this, I'll be able to ship this over to the vehicle's owner, and then all is he's got to do is come over here. There's two plugs. There's this plug here, and there's another smaller plug here. Just plug those in, and that should enable this vehicle to have CHAdeMO fast charging via the CHAdeMO fast charging port here on the front. Now, the only concern that I do have, the eagle-eyed amongst you may notice that our battery is only about 240 volts. So will some of the chargers work at that? I do not know. But all we can do is try. So that is pretty much the deranged Rover, folks, as it stands now, as it's going to be leaving me. By the time you guys see this video, it may already be gone. Yeah, it's been a challenge. There's no doubt about that. There was a lot more that needed doing to this than was originally anticipated. And the owner has quite a bit to do also, not least of which is this complete nightmare here of the motors encroaching into the vehicle's cabin, the deletion of seat mounts, and general putting the interior of this car back together, including the front here, and there's more in the rear that needs to be done, and so forth. But as we say, folks, that is not something that we're going to be doing here. So what's left to do? So I'm going to be cleaning out some of this garbage out of the back. We are going to do a little bit of balancing on the battery, just to hopefully keep it nicely balanced. And yeah. So folks, that pretty much brings my work on the deranged Rover to a conclusion. I hope you've enjoyed this, fairly short series. It's definitely been a different kind of a vehicle to what we've done before. Would I do another one in the future? Quite possibly, yes. I have, to a degree, grown attached to this old girl. I would definitely not be using those horrible Innova motors, though. They're just so painful to use. I've been, even trying to tune these. You think you've got it, and then you don't, and it's just so painful. Whereas the big Siemens in the E39 takes 5 minutes, and I'm going down the motorway. If I was doing one of these for myself nowadays, what I would do is I would probably use something like the Lexus, one of the Lexus all-wheel drive transmissions. So like the one, I think it's the LS600, has got one of them has a transfer box that just bolts onto the back of what's basically the GS450H gearbox, and I think this would absolutely work out very well in a four-wheel drive vehicle. So that's, I guess that's the wrap up, really, folks. A lot of other projects going on, as you guys know, and unfortunately we have to bid this vehicle farewell just to make space for some of the changes that are going on. So I'm going to leave it there. We might have some updates on this in the future. Don't know what exactly or how long it's going to take to complete it once it goes back to the UK. But in any event, as always, check the links in the description for various interesting things like PayPal and Patreon and Open Inverter Forum and GitHub and all that good stuff. And as always as well, don't forget to dislike, unshare, unsubscribe, and whatever else you can do to dispromote this crappy channel. And don't subscribe to it, please. It just gives Poochu more ammunition to hate me. And I guess the only thing left to say then is Rover and out.